We're going to take a look at an example here of solving a multi-triangle problem using a word problem. And so it's going to involve drawing out a diagram, understanding where certain pieces are, and then going through the steps in order to solve our triangle. So let's start off with our question. First of all, we have me. Okay, I'm Mr. Barkman. I tend to use my name a lot in questions. My eyes are 1.7 meters above the ground. So imagine that this height right here, 1.7 meters above the ground. When I'm looking at a tree, so here's our tree. There's me. The angle of depression to the bottom. Okay, so we got to use our horizontal in here. The angle of depression to the bottom is 6 degrees. So when I'm looking down at this tree, I'm looking down at an angle of 6 degrees, okay, which gives me a height there, okay, of 1.7 meters, which would technically, in this case of this triangle, be the opposite side. Now, I could use this in order to figure out how far away from the tree I am as well, and we'll get into that in just a minute. So that's the first little bit of drawing out our diagram. Part two, it says that the top of the tree, okay, is I have to look up at the top of the tree at an angle of elevation of 47 degrees. So up there, 47 degrees, it's going to get to the top. The question now states is how tall is the tree? So there's our line right there. Hopefully you're able to see that line. That is the measure of how tall the tree is. We know the bottom piece is 1.7 meters. We now need to figure out that top piece, and then we're going to add those two together in order to come up with our answer. So first step here is we have two triangles. We have a one on the bottom there. We're given one side of it plus the angle, and we have one on top where we're only given the angle. So we need to figure out a common side from the bottom triangle to the top triangle, and then use that side in order to figure out the remaining height of our tree. We're going to find this side first. Now, I've not labeled with a right angle or with our adjacent, opposite, and hypotenuse sides. I apologize for that. But the 1.7 is the opposite, and the question mark there is going to be our adjacent. So we're going to use our tangent ratio in order to solve for that adjacent side. Okay, so that common side between the two triangles, we're going to solve for using our tangent ratio. When we solve this, we should get our adjacent side as 16.17 meters. So let's plug that in there. Now, something that I try to always tell students is don't round your answers if they're not a final answer. I've rounded to 2 decimal places. You don't need to. Try to keep as many decimal places as possible to keep as accurate of an answer as possible. I'll often try to keep this number in my calculator because I'll probably use it again next. That way, then I'm not rounding, I'm not getting rid of part of the number. I'm just going to continue using it. Again, if you're dealing with sig figs, it's completely different ball of wax as well. But for math, I try to keep as many decimal places as possible in there for accuracy. And again, that does happen sometimes. Sometimes it's not necessary, sometimes it is very necessary. All right, now that we know that side, we can figure out what this piece is, that remaining piece of the tree. We have the adjacent side. We're looking for the opposite side. So again, we're going to use our tangent function again, but now we have the adjacent instead of the opposite. So now we're multiplying instead of dividing. And we're going to get an opposite side of 17.34 meters, which means that the remaining part of the tree is 17.34 meters. To figure out the entire length of the tree, we got to add the 17.34 onto 1.7. Now, again, remember the 16.17, that's not anything with the tree, that's just distance from Mr. Barkman to the tree. And so we need to make sure that we add the correct pieces together to get a final height of 19.04 meters. Therefore, the tree is 19.04 meters tall. I'm hoping that if you were able to go through this on your own and try this beforehand, you got the right answer. That would be awesome. If not, gladly find a way to contact me, whether you're in my class or whether you contact me through YouTube. That would be great as well. And we can talk about how we can come up with our answer. All right, happy learning and all the best as you work on your questions.